Good day. My name is Kamau Afrika. I was born and raised in the Smithfield portion of Birmingham, Alabama, born in 1956 in an area called infamously as Dynamite Hill. I want to be your next mayor of the city of Birmingham because of the current conditions. We're number 5 in violent crime. We have lost over 33,500 residents over the last 10 years. We're in a financial crisis in this city. We're in a financial crisis in the county. The state is in proration. We lack leadership that's competent. We have to make a change or we're going to all go down in this cesspool. My vision for Birmingham would be one that a gentleman I met in Central Park by the name of Winston Jennings. He's 91 years old. He called me up. One of my door knockers was knocking on the doors in Central Park. He got one of my leaflets and he was encouraged by what he saw in terms of my actions back in, I think it was it 2001? Yeah, 2001, when I said that when the mayor sold or mortgaged our waterworks that our bills were going to go up. Well, not only did they go up, you got 2 bills now, whereas before you had 1 bill. You should attribute that to the current mayor, William Bell. Before you had 1 bill that was low and you had quality water. Now you got, yes, quality water, but you got 2 bills and it's much higher. That's a tragedy and it's unconscionable on poor, fixed income, and struggling middle-class people. You have to lay that right at his lap. I envision a city whereby Mr. Jennings at his age at 91 or an old white lady even at 70 or 80 can walk from one end of the city to the other without being molested or robbed. That's what I believe. I believe that all of our residents can prosper. I know that we can wipe out illiteracy and obesity. How do you do that? You lead by example. That is something that we don't have in the current city government. We got a lot of talk and no action. I plan on absolutely finishing the good aspects of Larry Langford's work. The city workers in this city work very hard to keep this big city clean. And on my platform, I have clearly stated that we're going to have a significant merit and longevity pay for all city employees. But that's going to come with conditions. Those conditions will be that we tighten our belt. We're going to do some things to, with technology in fact, to save the city money from day one. Within a 90-day period of time, we're going to get the bills down with the city through sustainable business practices as well as sustainable environmental practices. We have to, it's no reason why corporate entities cannot partner with the city, make a profit, and have a social conscience at the same time. And currently, I don't feel that we have that. It's atrocious for the Alabama Public Service Commission to have the highest utility rates heaped on some of the poorest people in this nation. And that is currently what we have. And the sad thing is that companies like Alabama Power own Mr. Bell and at least 4 or 5 of our current politicians that sit on that city council. And it's across the board, Republicans, Democrats, city council seats all across this state, as well as in the legislature. That means that you citizens pick these politicians with your hands, your vote, but the corporate entities control them and tell them what to do. I'm asking for your vote so that we can begin to turn that around. I talk about aggressively tearing down dilapidated and condemned structures and correctly paving the bad roads in underserved areas. Areas like the South Side, they have 9 grocery stores, nice roads, but when you look in the Southwest, 41st Street, coming out, going into Raleigh, Trevec, when you go into North Birmingham, when when you go into parts of Inslee and Pratt City, the roads are atrocious. It's worse than riding on a mule wagon. And you know that wears you down. You feel beat up at the end of the day. You're coming back from work and you got to ride over these bad roads. And you know why? Because Mr. Bell chose to spend money on a losing baseball team, to be exact, almost $96 million. Mr. Bell chose to spend money on a losing baseball team and bring it to Birmingham, spending $96 million of taxpayers' money, which could have been spent in repaving correctly these roads. Yes, I said correctly. There's a way to pave roads incorrectly, and there's a way to pave them correctly. And you know, he has gotten real quick at trying to get some things done now because it's election time, and he needs your vote. But all of the years that he's been there, and he's been on that political feeding trough, him and his fat cat buddies from Mountain Brook, for 33 and a half years. He's been taken care of. He lives in a momentous English Tudor mansion in my neighborhood. And I say my neighborhood because my family roots run in Smithfield from the 40s. Started in public housing in Smithfield. They came here from Lowndes of Montgomery County and my mother out of Sumter County. And they began a life. Our communities are nothing like what I remember growing up in as a child, where everybody loved one another. I want to bring that spirit back to this city. This is a boring city. We got food deserts in the southwest, the north, and even in the northwest part of town. Even the biggest black middle class, which is District 1, Sun Valley, Echo Highlands, Bridlewood, that area doesn't have but one grocery store to serve it. North Birmingham, one grocery store to serve it. West End, one grocery store to serve it. 5 Points West, basically one. When I say that, I'm talking about quality grocery stores like a Bruno's or a Vincent's. If you're the leader of a city, you're supposed to market your city to bring these quality grocery stores into those communities, not run away people that want to put it in your communities. I would do that as your leader of a city. We will end these food deserts. If people in District 1 have to go to Trustfield and Centerpoint to shop for groceries, and that is the biggest revenue producing district for this city, it is also by population the biggest populated, most densely populated district. Why is the mayor not marketing that district like he does the South Side? He markets the South Side for hotels, for restaurants, the baseball team, of course, that he spent the $96 million on. As your mayor, I will market the entire city. I will get these ragged roads fixed. I will cut wasteful spending in the city. I will assure you, I'll start with all of the department heads will be required to live in my city. If you want to police us, then you should live amongst us. That will be a requirement. I will implement immediately, the first week, the recommendations of the disparity study to equal the economic playing field, very similar to what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta, Georgia, and Coleman Young did in the early good days of Detroit. I would do that as your mayor. I will have an immediate moratorium on homeless feeding shelters in residential. I'm sorry, not residential. I will have an immediate moratorium on homeless feeding in financial and entertainment districts. Why? Because these are areas that deal with revenue for our city. Business districts, when you bring in business people here or you're taking them out to be entertained, you don't want them hit on like it's a beautiful woman 3 or 4 times before they go into the door of a restaurant. Somebody trying to teach you how to park that you've been licensed for, and then they ask you for money, and the buddy's standing, they see you give that one person money, and then another guy walks across the street and asks you for some money, and before you go in the door, you got a third person. This actually happened to me, and I'm going to put an end to it. Now, I have compassion, so I have a program that I will implement through that ordinance also that will allow and require that homeless shelters and feeding sites be located in specific areas in 4 quadrants of this city. We need more Jimmy Hill Mission type places like you have across the First Avenue Viaduct in all 4 quadrants of the city. We want to restore people's personal dignity, get them their license back, a place to stay, give them some training so they can get their life back and get a place to stay and have a job. I've met with and talked with some individuals that have programs that we can do this with. We know that we have some programs that'll work. I will eliminate immediately after a forensic audit all of those programs that have not been working. People just getting a fat administrative check on the backs of the city. There was a study put out recently by the Public Policy Institute. It came out, I believe, April 15th, 2013, and it was published in the Birmingham News, talking about the waste in this city and how we're way over budget on just about everything. And the biggest one was the judicial system and police protection. Well, police protection is important, but if you got people working through sustainable industries and programs that you create in your city, if they're working, they're not going to break in your house. If they're working, they're not going to have time for stealing. If they're working, they're not going to be on welfare. I want to bring these sustainable industries and programs to this city. I also want to establish a Department of Sustainability in that fashion of dealing with sustainable industries, create ordinances that will require certain things in the building performance of new structures. And I'll start, by the way, with the city. There's some very simple things that I'll do that I won't disclose at this point. But that was part of my background at Sanford. The Second Chance program is something that's a part of my platform also, which I think is vitally critical to our city. There are a lot of young men that have felons and a lot of young women that have felons in this city. Why not put them back into the workforce rather than have them on welfare or begging or suffering because they don't have a second chance? I will actively campaign to do what in fact, he happened to be a Republican governor. Now, I'm a Democrat. I don't apologize for it, but I know that you have to work with everybody across the board, and I will make strong efforts to do that. But this particular governor, I recall, gave a pardon to a number of people for certain things. Well, if we have a second chance program, I'm going to tell you how it works. The federal government gives a rebate to businesses for hiring former felons. If we got a program through the city where we can employ them in those sustainable industries to clean this city up, to change the entire mental thinking of this city, then we can give them a second chance by giving them medical and dental benefits as well as a living wage job in those sustainable industries that we can attract to the city as well as through City Hall. I'm not about growing city government anymore because it's already basically too big. But we want to make it efficient, so we're going to cut the waste instead of cutting jobs. And we can do that. But in the second chance, we want to give them sustainable living wage jobs, which means these won't be minimum wage jobs where they can barely pay the bills. These guys deserve their longevity payback. They work hard to clean this city up. We just got to make it efficient. And in the second chance, not only will they give the businesses a rebate, but the way you get it done is that you got to have the facilities and the wherewithal to get the information out through PSAs, public service announcements, and get them in to fill out the paperwork or have something set up to assist them in filling out the paperwork. Sometimes it can be a long and tedious process, but it's all on the road to their freedom and their dignity again of getting these felons off of them. I'm not a felon, but I'm a personal victim of, I'll say, the judicial system here. And when I talked about the biggest hog in this city is the law enforcement, judicial, it is a meat grinder. The way this city is surviving is on the backs of poor and working class and middle class people, putting them through that judicial process and it's unconscionable because there are no job opportunities here where people can even pay fines oftentimes. And so therefore it's a continuous open the door, back and forth, swinging door policy. They're coming back and forth, in and out. And that's unconscionable. And that is what keeps this wheel operating. We got to have a more people-friendly city hall. We got to have a way where people can work off their desks, even working with the city, whether it's cleaning up the parks. And I can tell you right now, this madness with these pants being down, they're going to get the pants up when I get in the office as mayor. They are going to get their pants up, I guarantee you. The city of Atlanta passed an ordinance. And I remember back in the early 2000 or 99, when I went before the city about this particular ordinance. It was your current mayor, Mayor Bell, that said that he didn't agree with it because that's a matter of your right to wear to show your behind or to have your drawers showing. Well, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. The city of Atlanta disagrees with it. They passed an ordinance, and many other cities passed an ordinance that will withstand the test of the American Civil Liberties Union. I will pass an ordinance like that. Already got it written up, just got to get in office as mayor. Finally, let me say this. The decriminalization of marijuana is a necessity for medical purposes. There are people that are sick and suffering. I've seen people that have AIDS, spastic colon, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome is called, cancer, other diseases. As a neighbor that I have that suffers. These aren't people that are criminals or convicts or just lackadaisical people or people that just want to get high and party. These are people that have legitimate illnesses that are absolutely relieved by the effects of what medical marijuana does for them. And on that end, we must have compassion and love for people that are suffering. And we must pass that medical marijuana ordinance to give them relief. Further, there was an incident. A young man was at Marion Military Academy. He had a full scholarship, basketball scholarship. He didn't have any type of criminal record. This young man happened to be home on break in Tuscaloosa, and the police officers were just driving, and they saw he and his friend driving around. They hadn't ran a light. They didn't run a stop sign. It was broad daylight. They didn't have a headlight out or a tail light out, because when I sent the lawyer to represent this young man because his parents didn't have the money to pay for it, that's the first thing the attorney asked: did y'all get a citation for some type of violation? They said no, because there was no violation. They just saw us. They were driving while black. And so they pulled them over. You could have been driving while white and be, poor or working class. And if you can't pay the fines, you're going to get in that system that we talked about. And so long story short, this young man, they pulled the car over and they searched these young men, and they found a little bag of marijuana, less than, I think, a $10 bag of marijuana. They gave this boy a Class C felony, and luckily that he knew me, we were able to get him youthful offender status. But guess what? It basically has hurt him and his family, because he was kicked off the basketball team, and as a consequence, he's not in school anymore, because that's the way he had a scholarship. That is somebody you could potentially be putting on the rolls of welfare, or potentially lead him to a life of crime that he ordinarily would not have been involved in. So that is why we must decriminalize marijuana. We must do that.